Patch 14.10 has officially been updated with many changes. In this video, I will summarize the important changes. 1. Systems. Prismatic Orbs no longer drop from Krugs. Prismatic Orbs now drop much less often. Prismatic Orbs average gold value from 24G to 40G. Gift received from Prismatic Orbs. 2x Artifact Anvil and a Remover, 15%. Masterwork Upgrade plus Item Anvil plus Remover, 15%. Masterwork Upgrade plus 20 gold, 15%. Artifact Anvil plus Support Anvil plus Remover, 15%. Tome of Traits plus Support Anvil plus 8 gold, 10%. 2-star 4-cost Champion plus Artifact Anvil plus 12 gold plus Remover, 10%. 2 Duplicators and 24 gold, 10%. Support Anvil plus 25 gold, 10%. Encounters, Aatrox HP Grant, 10 instead of 15. 2. Traits. Behemoth Buff. Duration extended to 8 seconds. The 6th piece is being buffed from 80 to 85 armor. Exalted Base. Damage raising by 2%. The ghosts will spawn a little sooner. 1 more instance of damage. Ink Shadow Buff at 3. Now get 15% bonus damage and damage resistance. Mythic Buff. AD and AP at 3, 5, and 7. Porcelain 2. Nerf damage. Reduction and attack speed. Lowering the damage reduction 2%. The attack speed 5% again. Reaper Base. Crit gain. 25% instead of 20%. Reaper 4-piece. True damage. 50% instead of 45%. Sniper is getting a buff from 7, 15, 30 to 8, 18, 35. 5 Story Weaver Kale getting a buff ability. Damage from 225% AP to 250% AP. Story Weaver Tome of Swiftness. Damage increase 10% to 20%. Story Weaver Tome of Mending. Revive time, lowering 1 second. Lowering the damage of 4 Trickshot 10%. Lowering the Umbral Shield from 200 and 500 and 1000 down to 200 and 400 and 5900. Warden Start of Combat damage reduction. Bonus from 15% to 18%. Warden Base damage reduction from 10/20/33% to 10/22/35%. Champions. Ahris spell. Damage buff 280, 420, 630 to 300, 450, 675. Ahris secondary damage buff 130, 195, 295 to 150, 225, 335. Garen mana buff 30, 80 to 30, 70. Jack spell. Armor and magic resistance. Granted 60 to 90. Kabuko mana buff 30, 80 to 30, 70. Rek'Sai mana buff, 40,100 to 40, 90. Rek'Sai spell. Armor and magic resistance. Granted, 50 to 75. Yasuo Base's shield. Value buff, 175, 200, 250 to 225, 250, 300. Yasuo Faded shield value, 300 down to 250. Overall, 1-cost champions are buffed quite a lot. Garen and Kabuko carry are buffed. If you get Lucky Paw or Story Champion, you can play right away. Ahri and Yasuo are also buffed quite a lot. Faded's early game defense is also very strong. Aatrox attack speed buff, 0.65 to 0.7. Aatrox max. Mana buff, 40, 90 down to 0, 60. Aatrox spell. Heal 200, 250. 300 down to 120, 140, 180. Gnar spell. 80 gain. Per stack, 2.5% down to 2%. Kindred primary spell. Damage buff, 125, 185, 285 to 135, 200 to 300. Nico spell. Healing buff, 275, 300, 350 to 300, 350, 400. Teemo spell. Damage buff, 380, 570, 1050 to 400, 600, 1150. Yorick mana buff, 40, 90 to 40, 80. Here it is. Most likely, patch 14.10 will be the reroll meta. Kindred reroll comp, Nico, Drop Blossom reroll, Yorick Siphon, Midnight reroll. Soraka primary spell, damage buff, 230, 345, 550 to 260, 390, 600. Zoe primary spell, damage neft, 290, 435, 695, down to 280, 420, 650. Zoe Ricochet, damage buff, 95, 140, 225 to 140, 210, 325. Zoe is still quite strong, reducing target shock damage and increasing splash damage. Zoe Arcanist comp can still be played and get to the top. Ashe HP, 900 down to 850. Annie HP, 1050 down to 1000. Annie heal, amount 5% down to 4%. Annie debuff, duration 8 down to 5 seconds. Annie health on transform neft at 3-star, 1500 down to 1200. Annie spell, damage nerd at 3-star, 2500 down to 2000. Kane HP, 1200 down to 1100. Kane armor and magic resistance, 60 down to 55. Lilia's targeting pattern changed. The smaller casts now look at the 3 closest enemies to Lilia's target and pick the line that will hit the most people. Sylas HP, 1200 down to 1100. Sylas spell, heal neft from 120 million, 140,000. 600 down to 110 million, 130,000 is 600. Galio losing 100 health. Kaisa losing 50 health. Lee Sin losing 100 health. Nautilus losing 50 health. Ornn losing 100 health. Overall, the strong 4 costs in the previous meta were all nefted, especially Annie. Lilia has been buffed quite a bit to be more balanced. Lissandra's ability no longer throws enemies who survive the duration of her stun. Lissandra's ability no longer deals area damage around the target if they survive the duration of her stun. Lissandra mana buff, 60, 120, down to 45, 105. Set mana buff, 100,180, down to 80,160. Zaya AD, 85, down to 80. Augments, branching out, turn delay before emblem arrives, 1 down to 0. The golden remover can now appear on 4.2. Haunted house, plus 1 ghost. Heroic grab bag, plus 2 gold. Inspiring epitaph, shield, 5% off the shield ratio. Little buddies, 10 less HP per buddy. Longshot, plus 3% attack speed. Low interest rates capped at 4 interest instead of 3. Midnight Siphon, 5% less. Max HP damage, mulched, 5% less bonus damage. Reinforcement, extra gold from 8 to 12. Stars are born extra gold from 5 to 7. Scapegoat initial extra gold from 2 to 4. Call to Chaos emblems, plus 1. Living Forge 2 rounds earlier. Prismatic ticket, plus 5% chance to proc. Shopping spree now gives 3 gold immediately instead of 1 gold per round. Wow, quite a lot of changes, but perhaps shopping free has been nefted the most. Prismatic ticker promises to be very hot with reroll meta. Items. Artifacts items. Blighted Jewel plus 1 more. Magic resistance reduction per proc. Corrupt Vampiric Scepter plus 10% attack speed. Fishbones plus 5% AD and attack speed. Lichbane buff. More damage from 180, 230, 280, 330, 380 to 180, 240, 300, 360, 420. Luden's Tempest more AD and AP by 5%. Prowler's Claw more AD and crit by 5%. Rapid Fire Cannon 10% more attack speed. Seeker's Arm Guard 5% more base AP, armor, magic resistance. Unending Despair 25% more. Shield break damage. Support items. Eternal Flame Team plus 2% damage amp. Knight's Vow plus 3% Omnivamp. Spite Ally 20% more AD AP buff. Radiant items. Absolution plus 200 HP Crest of Cinders. 3% less bonus damage. Jackshow the Protean plus 10 base AP. More Elenomicon 15% less attack speed. Quickest Silver 2% more. Attack speed per stack. Royal Crown Shield plus 100 HP Warmogs. Pride 3% more, bonus HP percent. Overall, Radiant artifact support items are buffed quite a lot. Recently, there are changes in patch 14.10, promising to have many new metas, especially the return of the reroll meta. If you find it interesting, don't forget to leave 1 like and 1 subscribe. Goodbye, and see you in the next videos.